They came as envoys. They left as executioners. This is how vengeance was born, beneath a shattered sky. Velkaris was a jewel of starlight, a world wrapped in glowing auroras and bioluminescent seas. The Zevran people, tall and elegant, lived in harmony with nature. Their cities were carved from crystal and light, pulsing with life. Kael'thar, a scientist and diplomat, walked through the glowing fields with his daughter, Elira, and his mate, Soraya. Their luminous forms shimmered in the sunset. "Papa, the sky sings today." Elira laughed. Kael'thar smiled. "Yes, my light. It sings a lullaby." But the melody would soon turn to screams. 3 ships descended through the sky, dark, angular, and unlike anything Velkaris had seen. The humans arrived not in warships, but cloaked in promises. In the council hall, they stood before the leaders of Velkaris. The human ambassador, Roth, extended a hand. "We come in peace. Our Earth is dying. We seek partnership." Kael'thar, hopeful and trusting, welcomed them. The Zevran shared energy crystals, granted soil samples, and allowed limited orbital mining. It was a mistake they would not survive. 7 months later, beneath the surface of Velkaris, the humans dug deeper than allowed. They ignored warnings. They sought the ether core, the living heart of the planet. "We can power Earth for centuries with this," said one of their scientists. Ambassador Roth gave the order. "Then we take it. If they resist, bury them." The ground trembled. Cities fell. The ether ruptured, tearing space itself. Oceans turned to steam. The sky cracked open. Kael'thar ran home. But his family's light was gone. His home was gone. All that remained was a smoking crater. He fell to his knees and screamed into the winds. A week later, only a few thousand Zevran survived. Hiding underground. Starving. Mourning. Then a miracle emerged. A damaged human data crystal recovered from the ruins. Inside, a confession. "They're beautiful, but stupid," one human commander said in the recording. "We'll take what we need, then glass the rest." Kael'thar's heart turned cold. He was no longer a diplomat. No longer a man of peace. "You will answer for this," he whispered. In the silence of the deep caverns, Kael'thar began to change. He revived forbidden research. He modified his genes, blending Zevran strength with stolen human DNA. He trained his mind and body to mimic theirs. He injected nanotech into his spine. Learned their language. Learned their systems. The man who emerged from the lab no longer looked like Kael'thar. He looked human. "You walk a dark path," said a priestess. "Then let me be the darkness they fear," he answered. On the final night, he stood before a small stealth ship. In his hand, a flickering hologram of Soraya and Elira. He kissed the image once. "I will carry your names through fire." The ship vanished into the stars. 20 years passed. Earth thrived, powered by stolen light. The humans forgot. But one among them remembered. He walked among them now, unnoticed. A quiet man of influence. Respected. Brilliant. Ruthless. His name was Dr. Kellan Vire. But that was a lie. His true name was Kael'thar. And he was here to make them pay. They thought he was dead. They thought the stars would forget. They were wrong. 20 years had passed since Velkaris burned. On Earth, the memory of the Zevran genocide had vanished. It was buried beneath progress. Beneath towers powered by stolen cores and a new golden age built on quiet graves. But one survivor had not forgotten. His name on Earth was Dr. Kellan Vire, a respected biotechnologist, an influential advisor, a man of wealth and secrets. But his real name was Kael'thar. Inside his home, hidden beneath concrete and glass, was a chamber of memory. He kept no photographs, only holograms, glowing echoes of his lost family. He watched them every night before sleep, not to mourn, but to sharpen his resolve. He had risen quietly. First, through the corporate corridors of Helix Dynamics, one of Earth's largest biotech firms. Then into the Defense Commission, where whispers became influence. He knew how to mimic their ambition, their pride, their hunger. But he was never one of them. He had learned to smile while memorizing faces. He laughed at their jokes while hacking into their satellites. Every handshake was a scan. Every meeting, a mission. And finally, he found them. 3 names. The architects of Velkaris's destruction. Not the foot soldiers, but the minds behind the betrayal. Ambassador Roth, General Halvorsen, and Counselor Mira Kael. Kael'thar had once believed that Roth was the mastermind. But now, as he unraveled hidden files, he discovered the truth was more complex. General Halvorsen had led the operation. Ruthless. Strategic. He had ordered the sabotage of the ether core. Counselor Kael, she had approved it all. Not out of cruelty, but out of calculation. She had believed Earth would collapse without Velkaris's resources. Kael'thar watched her speeches on archive screens. She spoke of unity, of survival, of sacrifice, but she never spoke of the millions she had erased. He pressed a finger to her image. You will be the last to fall. The first would be Roth, the man who had looked into Kael'thar's eyes and lied to his face. Kael'thar tracked him to a private retreat in the Andes, hidden behind defense drones and climate shields. He entered the compound with no weapons. He didn't need any. He was the weapon. By the time Roth saw him, it was already too late. You. I know you, Roth stammered. From Velkaris. You were one of them. I still am. Kael'thar did not speak again. He did not explain. There were no speeches. Only silence. Roth died knowing the stars had come for him. News outlets reported a heart attack. Natural causes. Nothing suspicious. But General Halvorsen knew better. Kael'thar made sure of it. He sent him a message. A data crystal carved with Zevran symbols and a whisper of Roth's final breath encoded in sonic light. Halvorsen went underground. Changed identities. Hid behind the military's deepest vaults. Kael'thar followed like a shadow. He didn't rush. Vengeance is patient. But something unexpected happened. Kael'thar stumbled upon a forgotten file. An encrypted transmission dated the day of Velkaris's collapse. It came from Counselor Kael. Not to Earth Command, but to a hidden vessel. Child secure. Coordinates locked. If anyone finds this, forgive us. The message wasn't meant for war. It was a rescue. Kael'thar's mind reeled. A Zevran child, alive? One of the escape pods they thought lost? Could it be? He rerouted everything. Delayed Halvorsen's downfall. Focused all his networks on that single signal. And finally, he found it. A deep space outpost near the edge of Earth's influence. Officially abandoned. But it wasn't empty. He boarded the shuttle with no emotion. Only questions. And when the door opened, his heart stopped. A girl. Maybe 19. Zevran. Her eyes, his daughter's eyes. Not a Lyra. But like her. A distant cousin, perhaps. Another child of Velkaris. She stared at him. You're not human, she said calmly. No, he replied. And neither are you. She had been raised by Earth defectors. Hidden from both sides. She knew who Kael'thar was. She had memorized his face from a single image stored in the outpost's databanks. You're the one they feared. I am the one who remains. She asked only one question. Are you going to destroy them all? And Kael'thar hesitated. For the first time in decades, he hesitated. She wasn't a weapon. She was hope. Fragile. Untouched by hatred. I don't know, he answered honestly. They traveled together for a time. Quietly. Watching Earth from its orbit. Listening to its broadcasts. Kael'thar still burned with purpose. But doubt now flickered beside it. He had seen their cruelty. But also their capacity for kindness. The girl had been saved by a human. Mira Kael had risked her career to get her off-world. Perhaps not all of them were monsters. But Halvorsen, there would be no mercy for him. The general still lived. Still ruled from the shadows. Still profited from what was taken. Kael'thar would not stop. Not yet. Not until the last fire was lit. He looked down at Earth, his voice steady. "One more flame, and then we decide." The stars above Earth were silent. Kael'thar stood in the observation deck of his orbiting vessel, staring down at the rotating blue world. His reflection barely moved against the glass, tall, still, composed. A silhouette carved from vengeance, purpose, and memories he could never quite bury. Below him spun the planet that had taken everything from him. Earth. So small from here. So beautiful. So undeserving of its beauty. He watched the lights of its continents flicker in the dark, the slow crawl of clouds casting shadows over its fragile skin. Every inch of that surface pulsed with stolen life. Energy torn from the ether core of Velkaris. The light of his people, burning now in the towers of Earth's great cities. Their laughter buried under pavement. Their songs replaced with sirens. But today, that silence would end. Kael'thar exhaled. Not with rage. Not with sorrow. But with finality. He had spent 2 decades infiltrating the systems that built this empire. Earth's defenses, their media grids, their satellite chains, their military mainframes, all linked now, quietly and invisibly, to him. To the last remnant of Velkaris. And then, he activated the cascade. At first, it was a flicker. A tremor in the world's data flow. Glitches across entertainment channels, news sites, corporate ads. And then, the veil tore. Across every screen, in every city, in every colony, the truth erupted like a wound reopening. The broadcast began. Archived drone footage, ether mines on Velkaris, glowing caverns desecrated by human machines, Zevran children screaming as the ground collapsed around them. Helmet cams, Earth soldiers laughing, dragging artifacts out of temples, shooting elders in glowing robes. Command logs, authorizations stamped by General Halvorsen. And then his voice, crisp, clear, undeniable. "Rip it out. I don't care what they are. They're not human." The images surged across every tower, every floating colony, every moon outpost. In shopping districts, in classrooms, in war rooms. Kael'thar's voice followed. No longer filtered. No longer disguised. It was the voice of a ghost returned. "You thrived on lies. But the stars remember." Riots broke within hours. Corporations panicked. The United Earth Assembly denied everything, until they couldn't. Protesters poured into the streets. Memorials popped up for a people none of them had ever known. The name Velkaris trended in every language. Graffiti bloomed like flowers in every slum. "We were the fire you stole. The stars do not forget." Halvorsen vanished the same day. But Kael'thar was already on his trail. The old Cold War bunkers, a subterranean labyrinth buried beneath centuries of ice and classified fears. It had taken Kael'thar less than a day to track the general here. Halvorsen had always trusted Earth's institutions. He never imagined the past could bleed through reinforced steel. The vault was silent when Kael'thar arrived, cloaked in light-absorbing armor, his footsteps leaving no echo. He bypassed biometric locks, disabled drones mid-flight, broke into the core like a whisper through bone. And there, in the deepest chamber, he found him. General Halvorsen. Older now. Thinner. Hair gone. Eyes sunken. Still draped in command stripes, though the authority had long fled them. Kael'thar didn't speak at first. He simply stepped into the light, allowing the general to see what he had become. Halvorsen's face went pale. "You. I should have killed you when I had the chance." "You tried," Kael'thar said calmly. The general scowled. "You think this changes anything? People die in war." Kael'thar's eyes narrowed. "There was no war." Halvorsen gestured around the chamber. "Do you know how many people will die because of what you did? The panic. The destabilization." Kael'thar's voice turned to ice. "You desecrated a world. You shattered a culture that had never raised a hand against you." "They were in the way," Halvorsen hissed. "Your world was rich. Untouched. Ours was dying. You had what we needed." Kael'thar stepped closer. His shadow washed over the man. "You didn't just take it. You buried our sun. You silenced our oceans. You turned our songs into ash. From his coat, Kael'thar drew out a small orb, glowing, swirling with radiant blue energy. Ether, pure and weaponized. Halvorsen's breath caught. "You wouldn't." "I would," Kael'thar whispered. "But not for revenge." He looked at the orb as if it were a piece of his soul. "For justice." And then, he didn't aim it at the general. He aimed it at the ceiling. The ether exploded upward in a focused burst. The foundation cracked. Ice began to fall in massive sheets. The entire vault groaned as its centuries-old supports gave way. Halvorsen screamed. But Kael'thar was already gone. He emerged from the snow moments before the structure collapsed into a tomb of its own making, burying Halvorsen beneath the weight of his crimes. Orbit again. The young Zevran girl stood at the ship's control station, watching Earth's news feed scroll across the console. Chaos, outrage, tribunals. She turned as Kael'thar entered. He looked different now. Lighter somehow. As though something in him had been released. "Is it over?" she asked. He looked at her, this child of his people, survivor of a forgotten pod, carrier of a legacy older than pain. He walked to the observation window again. Fires still flickered on Earth. But among them were candles. Candles of mourning. Candles of apology. "Not over," he said softly. "But changed." She stepped beside him, her delicate fingers reaching for his hand. "Will they come for you now?" "They'll try," he replied, a faint smile touching his lips. "But I am no longer afraid." He uploaded one last message into the satellite stream. A single burst. Broadcast across all channels. Then deleted from the system's memory. "We were not your enemies. We were not your threat. You made us your victims. And now, you must choose who you become next." No signature. No name. Just the truth. And one word. Epilogue. The silence between stars. Kael'thar sat alone in the ship's quiet chamber. Holograms flickered around him, not of war, but of home. Velkaris. Its glowing seas. Its luminous forests. Its sky that once sang in colors Earth would never see. He closed his eyes. He had not rebuilt his planet. But he had made the stars listen. The Zevran would be remembered. Not just as victims, but as witnesses. As a warning. And as a promise. Because somewhere, out in the vast dark, other eyes watched. Worlds still untouched. Civilizations still naive. And to those who would take without mercy, to those who would bury the truth beneath progress, he left behind only one word. Remember.